position and posture of learned helplessness, which has many contributing factors, including just the sheer complexity of our civilization and the world as it exists today, with information being able to move from one end of the globe to the other in milliseconds at the speed of light. I think we haven't really psychologically contended with that, similarly to how we haven't really still civilizationally absorbed the fact that we can end human existence in the span of 30 minutes by launching nuclear weapons at each other. We just kind of pushed it into the background. So, in light of this massive complexity and in light of the unseen and untalked of downsides of the liberal post-war order, uh, there are real difficulties with organizing ourselves both individually and collectively in ways that allow us to meaningfully contend with that complexity. And so in this show, I wish to invite people on and have conversations with people who I think are meaningfully contending with the reality as it exists out there and are doing what they believe will move things in the right direction from their vantage point and according to their interests. And so today I have on Augustine, or Aidan Hughes, who I got to be introduced to online. I think we met on X when I was doing Modern Minuteman promotion, and I think you happened across my post or somebody shared about it. Welcome to the show, Augustine.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
Great. So this is the third episode, and we had already Ian Burlingham on, who I know is also an influence in your thinking, and then Josh Reeder, who I believe you don't know. But the reason why I want to bring you on specifically was that you shared something with me that I found quite interesting. You shared with me a document describing an effort that you're involved in, that you're in fact kind of co-leading with your two partners, I believe. And that's called the Black Tower. Perhaps can you tell the audience what you are doing with this, what it is oriented towards, where it perhaps emerges from, and how you think about it?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of start like with my narrative leading into this, like my personal story. Um, I guess like a lot of it, I've kind of grown up in like this kind of Gen Z, like young men calamity, like kind of born on the internet, like drowned in pornography, video games, drugs, whatever. Uh, and then when I was going through the school system, it was uh, like like DEI and like things like this. And there's a lot of things, a lot of signals to me that the system was not uh, supporting me or was not like kind of interested in I don't know. It didn't seem that I was the right demographic, and so I was definitely resentful. And I think a lot of young guys are resentful. And so, and we kind of go through like our conservative phase. Like a lot of guys now are like following Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate or whatever, and just kind of just like lashing out, just like charging in, like swinging their sword around, not really producing anything that I haven't seen anything that's really productive coming from it, other than like I kind of appreciate their like the fact that they're pushing back at least on the culture, but I just think we need to redirect that energy. But basically, I graduated from New York University 2 years ago, and that was like right after the Israel Palestine war had broke out, and like this in the student body, like the Jews and the Muslims were just like fighting each other in the streets, like teachers were getting arrested, and I just kind of had a sense that something was deeply wrong. Like this was not the way things were supposed to be, and so I bought a motorcycle when I graduated, and I rode around the country, kind of looking for light. Actually, you're one of your recent guests. I really related to. I forget what his name was, but he was talking about tribal, like kind of bringing back tribal fraternities, and I think he had a similar experience. And the way what I found is actually I found it through I would say definitely Christianity in a big way, and thinkers like Jordan Hall, Jonathan Pageau, And then in person, as I was riding my motorcycle around, I was visiting different Christian communities to explore and see, what this thing was. And I ended up in a monastery in Northern California, an Eastern Orthodox monastery. And I was only intending to be there for 3 days, but my motorcycle broke down when I tried to leave, so I had to be there for 3 weeks. And
Funny
so
how that
yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I got a nice dose of holiness, and from there I went in. As I was going around, I've been watching Jordan Hall, his videos, and Jonathan Pajot, and I saw they were having there was a little event they were going to be at together, a feast in Florida. Um, and so while my motorcycle was broken down, I asked the abbot to drive me to the airport, and so he drove me, and so I went and flew to this event, this feast, and I met Jordan, and I met another friend of mine, Maximus, who I'm working with now, he was a Navy SEAL, and now he's a master carpenter. Um, and I kind of bonded with both of those guys, and I heard about Jordan's community in Astral. Some people may know his story, but they basically got hit with a hurricane in the mountains somehow. I don't know how that happens. Maybe some geo warfare or whatever. But uh, it seemed like a good opportunity because I'm definitely a symbolic thinker, and it seemed like a way of experiencing how to rebuild after a flood, which to me was kind of related to our civilizational predicament. So it seemed to me like a kind of like a microcosm. So I asked if I could come there, and Jordan's, said, yeah, yeah, come help out. And my friend Maximus actually let me stay with him, my new friend. And so I lived with him in the mountains for a little while, and he taught me, carpentry and how to shoot. And I was going out with him into the towns, like rebuilding houses, things like that, building little bridges. And I was just studying the scripture the whole time, and I was studying a lot of Jordan Hall's work, and I would like watch his videos, and I would go like get coffee with him, like talk it over with him. And so it was really wonderful. And well, one other thing is I was learning to host feasts, which is the other aspect, I guess. Um, we met at this feast that this guy John Hughes does. He's a Eastern Orthodox guy, but he basically discovered this way of feasting that had been preserved in the country of Georgia. But it goes back about 2,000 years to the Christian Agape feast. But it's like this ritual feast where by arranging people at a table and by having somebody at the head and having wine and food and by making toasts, people compare it to a psychedelic experience, but it's done like completely, naturally and basically just through meaning, like through
Right.
giving meaning to the table. So I was doing that too, like learning to host those tables and doing that. Yeah, so I basically kind of immersed in this environment and, was learning practical skills, like learning to build, like learning to shoot. I was cutting down trees with chainsaws and doing carpentry. And then I was also learning, theology. Like I was reading the Bible every day, learning theology, going to church, praying constantly, and then philosophy, with Jordan, and then also this kind of leadership role, like at the head of the table. And it was really, really transformative, man. I guess, and then there's one other. So the idea with this is that what me and my friend Maximus thought we should do is like maybe expand this into something that's more structured. Because I kind of another thing I loved about your last guest, you was talking about like entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. Like I'm definitely more of a pioneer type of guy, and I realize I kind of would like expect other people to like just do like my friends are like, oh, how can I like get out of this? Like I'm like feel stuck. I'm like, man, just get a motorcycle and like get out. But not everybody can do that. I'm realizing. So what I'm trying to do now is kind of provide an environment for people who maybe have like a little bit less faith, like are kind of need to see more clearly the light at the end of the tunnel. Um, and so that's what we're working on, and that's basically the document that I sent you is kind of our initial like, putting all of our thoughts together. This is what we're presenting to sort of people who are like ready to receive it. Um, and now we're working on something which can maybe bring it down more to earth to people who aren't like at the level of thinking that you are of like civilizational crisis. More people, maybe people who like can see the problems but don't know how they all connect yet. And we're hoping that we can say, hey, we have something that can be at least a step towards a solution, which is to to form the people who are capable of solving these problems. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing.
Very interesting. May sound totally left field, but I will ask it anyway. Can you do you have a can you remember a first memory?
First memory of my life?
Yes.
That's a good question. Um, yeah, I can remember something very early. Would you like to hear it?
Are you willing to share it?
Yeah. Well, I remember one. It was a dream. Yeah. So I had a dream when I was like 3 or 4, and there was basically a woman in my room, and I just kind of felt this warmth coming from her. That's what I just remember that, just this woman, but it was like a spirit, like she was some sort of angel or something like that. I just have that memory of like this woman in blue. Um, and what basically I did is I went and told my parents about my dream, and they're like Catholics, like very religious Roman Catholics, and they're like, "Oh, you met Mary, like she came to you." And so I actually believe that. Just because it's beautiful to me. Uh, so yeah, I have that memory. Yeah.
I ask this just trusting my instinct. I think one of the issues that befalls young men as well is this. Additionally to the things that you already sketched out, is this difficulty of marrying their analytical capabilities with their intuitive capabilities, or their intuitive grasp of things. And I have gotten great purchase from giving both of these ample leeway to influence my actions. And in some sense, we know from Jung and many others as well that our subconscious can be a powerful source of guidance if we offer it inclusion in our consideration. And it may not necessarily be just the unconscious. Maybe there are other messages from other realms that come through that vector. So I do have a kind of set of symbolic archetypes or kind of relationships between different things that have personal meaning to me, that I have had either in dreams or in kind of visions, or kind of active imaginations, if you want to kind of take the more psychological language to describe it. And so we often underestimate the power that these things hold, and also that we are rarely doing other things than just acting out the drama of a particular pattern that entered our lives, and that we then end up repeating again and again until we can discover the thing that it was trying to teach us, so that we can move on to the next level, if you will. So I don't know that this is relevant, particularly this particular dream is relevant to what you're doing now, but my suspicion is that we can't help but unite all of the aspects of our lives in the present moment by their various contributions to how we actually move through the world. So in any case, so you grew up religious, or your parents were religious. Did you have a kind of arc where you fell away from that and
Yeah.
then re-entered that, or yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I'm from Indiana, from Indianapolis, and when I came to New York City for school, there were a lot of challenges that I couldn't address. Um, and so, I mean, at one point, I basically was like, okay, I'm just gonna like start from scratch, as if I never believed, and see if I can make my way back. I don't know if that was the right move, but it definitely led to some trials, but I did make it back in the end. Yeah. So I did have that arc for sure. Yeah, definitely when I was growing up, was very much a believer, you know.
And did that? I think your age arc might not exactly line up with this, because with the new atheist stuff, because I personally I am millennial. I was born in 93, and for me, kind of my coming of age, like 15, 16, in that age range, was when the new atheist stuff was very much kind of mimetically dominant.
Yeah.
Like the Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, that kind of stuff. And I do remember watching a lot of that stuff online on YouTube, and actually mostly connecting with Christopher Hitchens just because I was awed at the ability he had to put words together in service of his of his arguments.
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of brilliance. So, was that a factor for you? Like, was that the nature of falling away from it, or what was that?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I was definitely into Sam Harris. I was doing his meditations, his mindfulness, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that like kind of doing the Sam Harris stuff was definitely a big factor in
And
learning that side of things.
and what to you even opened that door to falling away? Like, did it lose legitimacy in your eyes because it wasn't able to answer real world questions, or like what made that door open, if you will?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is my own weakness, like the enticements of the world, and like and being in New York City as a young man, like at school, and I was in Greek life, so it was like a frat boy, you know. Uh, but there's probably like a more intellectual answer. Uh, yeah, I think from what you said though is true too. Like, I think definitely like I didn't have answers that could cover my experiences. Like, I didn't have enough wisdom from my understanding of the tradition I'd been raised in, which was limited.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I think that speaks to this wider trend that I see what you're doing with Black Tower being to some extent a response to it. Like, there's a break in the chain of passing on relevant knowledge and perhaps even cosmological understanding to the younger generations.
Mhm.
There are kind of, on the political level, there are assaults on the shared religious fabric. There's just legitimacy that language has lost in the eyes of the public. I think one of the things that I again and again find myself lamenting that we have lost, because theology is no longer a discipline that holds currency in the public eye, that we can't, and it is psychology that has largely replaced it, which itself has largely become a tool of the state uh, and of the
Yeah.
economy, right?
Yeah, it's just like theology but made an instrument of the state.
Exactly, and so what we've lost is we've lost this extremely rich vocabulary to describe the human condition and the way to navigate it, that encoded extremely potent wisdom, and that we can't really access anymore because we deny the legitimacy of that language or that worldview. So, uh, do you feel like there is something happening, perhaps both within but also outside of your project or your effort here, that where people are rediscovering that? Because that's kind of how I see Peugeot, for example,
Yeah.
doing, right? Like they are, him and his brother are reconstructing this symbolic vocabulary and literacy, perhaps, that is offering people an avenue to grant enough credibility to the stories that have for a long time now been at the foundation of our civilization and our peoples. And I guess Peterson was one of the first in the public eye to kind of provide people a path back to that, right? Like that then I think Jonathan and others filled or built on top of, going from there. But yeah, how do you see that?
How do I see it? Yeah, I think they're definitely bringing a way back in. Um, yeah, I guess what they're it's exactly what you said. Like they're giving a people a way of seeing the value in it without necessarily at first needing to accept like this literally happened. They're basically showing you that whether it happened or not, like this is like the most rich source of information you could possibly have, and so it's absolutely essential. Um, and I think that's a way back in, and then you can enter into that, and then you kind of you start to believe actually, the literal part too.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe tell me a little bit about your relationship with Jordan. Like, how have you? What kind of conversations have you had? Like, what has come out of that that informs what you're doing now?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is basically, I think in some ways, the way that modern Minutemen for you is maybe your response to your relationship with Kurt. I would say this is my response to my relationship with Jordan. Um, yeah, at one point we were considering that he might write a book and I might like be kind of like in dialogos with him, like the way Verveke did with oh, what's his name? With some other guy, I forget his name. But I didn't quite feel right. And but this to me feels right because it's like it's making it embodied rather than just like writing another book. Like, okay, here's the action. Like here, because Jordan's whole thing is like his abilities to diagnose civilization and like the problems. Like he can take like a problem like the environmental crisis, like the crisis in law, or like the crisis in human nature in the soul. And he can, if you can like see, if you are like concerned with any of these problems, he can like take you from there and show you how they're all connected to one. And then now what he can do is like saying, here's the key. And you basically have to enter, you have to become something. Like you have to, the way to cure civilization is to cure yourself and your communities, and then you'll be capable of curing civilization. And so yeah, so that can tell you something about our relationship. And then basically this idea with the Black Tower is to do that, is to now I want to be able to like talk in the way that Jordan does and tell people about these problems. And then here's a key, and here's a way you can actually participate in that now. Like we're giving you the environment to do that.
Perhaps use this opportunity to explain like what Black Tower is, like what is the idea here, and where are you at, and what are you aiming at?
Yeah. So I mean, I think in terms of like wisdom and power, like you have to have capability to, I mean, we know that our civilizational structures are crumbling, so you need to be capable of building the new ones or replacing them. We're also losing our narrative. Like we have narrative cohesion is crumbling. So you have to be able to like have a legitimate narrative for like what you're building. So what this is the hope is like open up a space where men can come and receive mentorship from guys like my friend Maximus, Navy SEAL, like a warrior, like a man who has done the real thing, has fought in Afghanistan. Our friend Thomas, he was a army captain, um, and mechanical engineer. So like, yeah, the idea is you come in. I mean, we're kind of figuring out like what like level to start at, but like say you're like an incel, uh, like you're like an incel, like you don't have really many capabilities, you don't know what you're doing, you just know this sucks and you hate this. Like we want you to be able to come in, like if you truly have the potential and the will, um, to do a lot of what Ian Burlingame talks about, which is like first like ground and basic skills. Like, what I was doing was I was going to the woods with a chainsaw and cutting down trees. Or like I was building like a hut with with wood and cutting, or like laying concrete, like doing these things, these physical things. And then the part where I would like a little bit add on, maybe later on to Burlingame's framework, because he's really concerned with capability. I would add in the what we would do is add in the narrative. So like reconnect with your narrative, like read the Bible, read the Odyssey, like read the stories which built the narratives up to this point. And then from remembering your own story, and from gaining this power, you have the beginning of what can be like an outpouring into a civilizational remembrance of narrative and capability to implement it. Um, yeah, so that's like so the basic, getting those basic skills and getting this basic narrative grounding, and then you would move into uh, kind of this second stage, which is what Burlingame talks about, like he calls it the seven pillars of fifth generation warfare. which is kind of some of what we would like to learn. But you basically, once you're grounded, now you can move into like more things like your modern minute, like entrepreneurship or statecraft. And we want to provide the environment. Like we're not really masters of this stuff yet. This is like kind of a participatory process. But we want to provide the environment where you can come in and live in fraternity and together learn and take advantage of the internet and the possibilities of learning. Because I mean, if you see like the Peterson Academy, like what they're kind of seeing is that you don't really need if you're just gonna have a teacher in front of a classroom just transmitting information, you can do that online. Like you don't need to be in person at all. What you do need is mentorship. Like you do need men who have a relationship with you, and you do need men. You need brotherhood. You need relationship vertically and horizontally. You know, and in that way you can grow and bond and you know that can flourish into projects and like things that you do like kind of which has been my experience. I'm kind of doing it at like a meta level, I guess, because I'm like trying to like feed back in and like provide the experience at least at first. um yeah, and then from that the idea is like rather than here's our strategy, like we're gonna like I respect your strategies, like your revolutions and all these ideas. They're nice, but like kind of the idea is not to have like a strategy like this is our political plan. The idea is rather just to form the people who are capable of, you know, making these strategies and
Right.
executing them. And then the other aspect of this would be we're just doing like a one place right now. Like we have some land and we're trying to implement it there. I think there needs to be some way of connecting like different brotherhood networks under
100%.
some, which is why I think you need narrative.
Right. That's the layer of affiliation, association, coordination across these geographic distances. I mean, it's also what religion provided in the aftermath of the axial age, right? Like religions arose, at least in the form we know them today, to offer people a path to deal with the collapse of their societies,
Yeah.
and it's very much relevant today. I read an article, I think, yeah, today. I'll send it to you after this as well. I think you might enjoy it, uh, where this guy I've been following for a number of years now writes about how in the Bible there is a lot of symbolically rich patterns that you can find, and but more importantly, or what's relevant to this conversation is that John the Baptist, the apostle John. Uh,
Which
I,
one? They're different.
sorry. Okay, I'm. This is where I'm out of my depth because I'm not actually very
Oh,
literate
no,
in the
okay.
Bible stories, but
I'm a beginner too.
it's the apostle John, not John the Baptist.
Okay.
And he was talking about John as being somewhat separated from the other apostles as the form in which the church renews itself. I can't I can't summarize really what he was saying in there because it's still very fresh and I don't have the literacy in this to fluidly weave it into the conversation like this. But I'll point your attention to that afterwards. But what stuck to me about this and why I'm bringing it up is that it was this sense of there's the church as it is built institutionally, and then there's the church as it is lived by the people themselves. Like there's the institutional body that exists that the Christianity became over the last 2,000 years, and then the renewal might come not only through the institutional body, but through the direct relationships of the people in whose hearts perhaps that
Mhm.
pure love and faith for Christ is actually active rather than uh, ritually or institutionally kind of encultured. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know whether that sets anything off for you, but I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, in the way that I think about it, it's kind of what I see is I see like the bottom up more right now than I do the top down. Um, So I guess that's another aspect I can touch on, is like the idea. What I'm interested in is helping, like supporting communities that are living that way, like places where the spirit is there, like the spirit of life, like where people are happy and joyful and they're living in community. And I think that it has to be like, I think Christ has to be the unifier, because I think you need yeah, I think you need something strong enough which can like bind things locally and globally. Um, it's just one way of talking about it, and I think Christ is does that at every level. This is a big topic, but I'm just like gonna say that. So yeah, part of this is like, I think we just, you guys talk about this, like we need to build parallel infrastructure, and if we're forming guys who are like gonna be these, uh, these Minutemen, or what I would call knights, or you would call at the highest level the network statesman. I would maybe call that like a saint, or our version of a Christian Jedi, maybe. Uh, and but you need to like have a foundation, and I think the foundation is basically a village, like a Christian village. And when I was in Appalachia, I was seeing people building these and moving towards building these. So what I would like to do is help them, like offer this kind of these capabilities as a service for those communities, rather than like some like top down like crushing thing, which is happening right now. It's like kind of these like structures are like crushing the life out of these local communities.
Right, right.
What do you think, Mates? Do you agree?
Say again.
What do you think? Do you agree?
I do agree. I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing as well. In some sense, this is simple humility. It's recognizing that my influence, all of our influence, is limited, limited by time, limited by resources, limited by attention, and I would rather constantly reassign my attention to the real scope of my influence than the imagined scope of my eventual possible potential influence, and therefore stay in the mind. And so
Yeah.
what I'm doing with my Minuteman, and in fact, I was originally, or I was interested in writing a book on Modern Minuteman, right? Like, or just writing a book, yeah. And I chose to delay that because I went through 15 drafts like very, very quickly.
It's so
But
many, man.
but I mean, AI assisted, whether for good,
Oh,
ill or
okay.
worse, for the good. But what I realized is I was lacking the experience to exercise authority on top of, to be able to speak about some of the subjects I was interested in discussing there. And so now I'm just playing the experiential game forward, like doing more real world things, and then essentially reporting on my experience and offering tools that I found
Yeah.
valuable in that light, rather than attempting to treat this intellectually at a disembodied analytical level and
Yeah.
then making claims about that I can't really back up. So I think in that sense, this is the game, right? Like and especially in our time of massive sources of distraction and this like incoherence that are constantly tugging at us. That's really the context in which my project also was conceived. That I think that there were the Minutemen of old, yes, but they were not really in a highly contested second-to-second information environment that was available to them at the like on their phone right in front of them. And so, in some sense, I'm harkening back to that historical archetype because I want to point people's attention to that there are real things you can do, and there are real skills you can amass, and there are real ways you can work with others and take a kind of active role in righting the wrongs in your civic or political life, or direct personal life as well, although that's less touched on by the Minuteman as an archetype in and of itself. And to reinterpret those in the modern context where this information speed, the narrative and medic evolution being so fast, like where all of these things are real dynamics, and And yeah, I think you're very much right in diagnosing and applying this diagnosis to touch ground first, right? Like saw off those trees and make a cabinet from it for a person, a real person in front of you, rather than what is the best possible cabinet with the perfect logging policy on the state level. To like,
Yeah.
these are just very sophisticated ways of either masturbating or entertaining yourself. A lot of the time, when they come in the way of doing things that are of real value, whether spiritual or material, to real people in your life. So, yeah.
It's like Christ said, humble yourself and you will be exalted. Exalt yourself and you'll be humbled. Yeah. I have another question, which has been a bit on my mind recently, is like, how do you build parallel infrastructure without triggering the state to see you as a rival sovereignty?
We were just talking about that in our staff call. Yeah, on some level, the question implies that you're not fine with whatever outcome God kind of lays in your path, or could. This is a bit facetious, but on another level, it's very real and pragmatic, right? You want to serve the people. I mean, in some sense, this is actually exactly the story of my own arc that I have been on for the past, 15 years or so. Like, for me, more than that, my real awakening or initial starting point, like where my cosmological dome broke, was the 2007, 2008 financial crisis. Because it didn't really financially affect my family in some serious way. But what it did produce in me was this real world perception that, the people that are nominally in positions of power, whether political or economic or otherwise, they're not automatically competent, they're not automatically well oriented, they're not automatically moral, they're not automatically truthful. And so this, to me, set me on this path of, if the people in supposed charge are not actually these things, then I actually have to pay attention to the edges, the fringes, the heterodox sources of information rather than the mainstream, if I want to be in a real relationship to the forces and dynamics out there in the world. And all of this in service of wanting to care for the people in my life, right? Like I am by nature a fairly harmony-seeking person, and I have 3 younger brothers, and I have this core memory of being on a Spanish highway with our Winnebago when we were traveling from Germany to Portugal, and me breaking down crying because my brothers just wouldn't stop having stupid fights over nothing. And to me, this is one of those early kind of core memories that I think typifies how like I am motivated to prevent unnecessary and illegitimate suffering. And this financial crisis thing gave me this kind of push to apply my intellect to the world, kind of on the analytical level, and more and more, and I've struggled over the past 10 years to unite these two impulses, like wanting to have things be real and matter, and not just be masturbation or entertainment, but also it actually being important to understand things truly, rather than at the surface level. And for that, you do have to invest a significant amount of time generally into understanding things, at least if you want to spend your energy or your life being able to address those particular things. And so, yeah, Modern Minuteman has become for me a vehicle now of making everything I do touch ground and actually flow into real relationships I have and real people. And in fact, with my most recent cohort, the second one that I did, I learned a number of things. Like, for example, that few people are actually self-directed enough to meaningfully take advantage of what kind of buffet of value I was putting on their plate. And also few people had the time or ability to work well together with strangers they just met on kind of shared interests. Like this kind of at this crew concept of putting people into a crew and then having them work together throughout the duration of the program. And that worked for people who had a pre-existing relationship and strong shared interest and intent, but for people who were strangers to one another, it didn't work at all. And so this is just another example of like
Yeah.
trying things out and having them touch ground and see, oh, this is actually not how reality works, or I was missing this thing, and then adapting from there.
For sure. Nice. Yeah.
So do you have people who you are in touch with who like you're doing this thing with beyond the kind of core of these three of you?
Yeah. Yeah, we have some guys who are interested in coming and living with us, kind of going through the training, and who have their own kind of unique contributions that they can add to this tribe. And then we're talking to basically investors, like guys who are uh, Jordan described it more as we're looking for enrollment right now, like people who are, rather than looking quite to get a big chunk of money, more people who will give money but also want to be spiritually invested. So we're talking to a few guys like that, and a couple mentors. And what we're doing now is, now we're kind of, now that we've sort of established a little bit of like an extended team, we're trying to now kind of expand and get the money to actually build this thing. Um, so yeah, we have an extended team, and yeah, also other guys who are interested in teaching. Like we want to bring in guys who have unique kind of things, who are maybe not going to be like leading the group, like my friend Maximus would be, but like would come in for a week or for a weekend and come teach something like psyops defense, like our friend Grim Grizz, if you know who that is. Uh, so yes, that's my answer.
Great. If somebody wanted to see you succeed, what would you tell them how they can support you? I assume prayer is on the menu, but
Yeah, very cool, for sure.
other forms as well.
Yeah. If you're interested in supporting this, we have a nonprofit. We're applying for a 501(c)(3). But yeah, just reach out to me on Twitter, on X, through my DMs, Aiden Hughes 8. This is my first time talking about this publicly, so there's not much out there yet, but there will be more soon. But yeah,
I
if
think
you are, please reach out. And
I
if you
think
want to, if you're
that's
interested in joining too, that would reach out. And if you're interested in maybe leading a group of young men, also, please reach out.
great. Yeah, I think it is not necessarily a bad thing for things not to be surface level available online of this caliber or this nature. I think this is one of the answers to your question earlier. Just stay illegible and you do things in the real world. I mean, this is one of the other core insights that I've taken to heart in my Modern Minuteman work is to really see the digital as infrastructure for the real, but for the real to be where you measure or where you see whether it works or not. Like
Yeah.
to the extent possible, I wish not to contribute to the spectacle of distraction, and wherever possible, I want to kind of quote unquote punch through the screen and have things happen in people's real lives, so that their physiological relationship to what they're doing is a different one than there is light moving in front of me.
Hmm.
So I do counsel you and everybody out there to take that to heart, to consider it actually an advantage, not a drawback, to not be very legible, and instead to kind of traverse the web of relationships instead of
Yes,
the public kind of wide net of the open sea
for
of
sure.
catching fish.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you. I didn't like go on Twitter and like here, yeah, I wanted, because it seemed like, I mean, I'm literally learning from you, like just from your videos. So it just seemed like you would be somebody who would get it, and maybe we could talk and something could come of it. Um,
Definitely,
and
definitely.
the people watch your show too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is a good point to pause and well, stop, I guess. We will definitely continue the conversation, whether in public or private forum. But to our audience, thank you for tuning in, whether that's live or afterwards as a download or listen or stream. And if you found this of interest, feel free to reach out to Aiden directly. He shared about his X account. That's where you can reach him. If for whatever reason you don't find him, you're welcome to reach out to me and I'll connect you if I feel that is appropriate. And yeah, take into consideration, pray on his behalf that his venture succeeds if you are given to that kind of thing. And I will talk to you in another episode whenever that happens. I mean, this is also a new, one of the many new things I am doing, and I'm very much approaching these as doing something when reality asks me to, rather than planning to produce something on a schedule that is arbitrarily set and then has to be fulfilled as an external set of chains that I've bound myself to for no reason. So
you're walking with the Lord. That's what you're saying.
I will accept that as an interpretation, yes. All right, appreciate you coming on, Augustine. We'll continue elsewhere, and feel free to reach out to him at the first opportunity.
Thank you, Marie.